Chapter 796, Slowly Becoming Proficient. Not good. Emlyn White traced Argus's gaze and realized that he had forgotten to deal with the old newspapers and the tiny wooden chest. Although they were part of the room, they were placed in different parts of the room. Now, they were put together, making it appear rather odd. It was as though someone had wanted to do something with them before having to give up for the time being. Then, why would there be a need to give up? Was the person alarmed by the knocking of the door? That means that the murderer hadn't left and is hiding in a particular corner of the room. Similar thoughts flashed in Argus's and Emlyn's mind at the same time. However, one of them was feeling perplexed, while the other was reverse inferring the other party's thoughts. No good. The two vampires reacted at the same time as Argus lunged to the side, as he emitted thick black gases that resembled a bat's wing. As for Emlyn White, his finger quickly swiped across the opened Laymanos travels. Suddenly, a silver hue appeared, illuminating the room again. The lightning that branched out didn't hit Argus and ended up hitting the ground beside the bed. It broke up into countless thin bolts that snaked towards conductive materials. Here, the wing which Argus used thick black gases to create seemed to attract the lightning. It was pursued by the snaking lightning as they struck him, spreading across his body. Argus became numb for a second and crashed down to the ground before he could leap up. Emlyn hurriedly flipped through Laymanos' travels and once again slid his finger across a lightning strike page. Although he didn't know why there were so many pages of lightning strike, with them taking up nearly half of the yellowish-brown goatskin, he was overjoyed that he could keep using them. The silver bolts of lightning crashed down, smiting Argus, causing his body to emit black smoke despite having just recovered from his numbed state. Failing to leap away, his body began to convulse uncontrollably. Seizing this opportunity, Emlyn White bent his knee and leaped forward with his feet, approaching Argus with afterimages trailing behind him. Then, he wrapped his right arm around Target's head, easily flashing behind him. Catcha! Argus directly saw his back. His eyes filled with blood as the few festering parts on his face burst open as deep and illusory darkness poured out from inside. Emlyn had no idea what had happened. He slid backward instinctively as he kept changing his positioning. Argus didn't pursue him as his eyes lost their rationality. All that was left was pure malicious intent, madness, and clear blankness. He raised his hands and pressed them against his head before forcefully twisting it, allowing it to return to its normal orientation with a crisp crack. And around this artificial vampire, the darkness surged as though it wanted to devour everything. Then Argus stretched his neck from side to side as his body swelled and oozed out disgusting pus. He had come to Golly's Kevin tonight because his body had shown signs of losing control. There was a need to discuss a solution. He returned midway because he suddenly came to a realization that perhaps the harsh environment had caused intense negative effects to him due to his extraordinary sense of smell and sensitivity, thus resulting in him having signs of losing control. And at that moment, he completely broke down with the shadow of death hanging over him. He had lost control. Emlyn White's heart palpitated when Argus swept his gaze across him. He felt that he had encountered trouble again, as he couldn't help but curse the primordial moon's believers for often making themselves into monsters. He didn't immediately pray to Mr. Fool for two reasons. First, there wasn't any time as his opponent was about to launch an attack. Second, in a one-on-one situation, Emlyn believed that it wasn't too dangerous dealing with a Sequence 7 rampager. He made every second count by flipping through Laymanos' travels quickly, letting it land on the page with lightning strike again. Puh! Thick, distorted bolts of silver lightning smote down heavily as it flailed its claws, striking the mutated Argus. At that moment, the lightning seemed to shatter the surging darkness, but it also seemed to be devoured by it. The two vanished at the same time, leaving behind Argus, who had finally locked his sights onto Emlyn. This artificial vampire who had lost control produced afterimages as he pounced towards his target. Emlyn crouched down and rolled, dodging the lethal strike. At the same time, he reached his free right hand into his pocket and took out a metal bottle. Bam! As Argus quickly turned around, he instantly appeared near his enemy. Puh! Without any time to remove the cover, Emlyn clenched his fingers, pinching open a crack in the metal bottle. Then he threw the bottle ahead, letting the pure and radiant liquid inside splatter towards the approaching Argus. This was sun water, which he had concocted with his spirituality. It was extremely strong against vampires. This was the preparation that a potions professor had to do in advance. Being splashed by the liquid, Argus let out a blood-curdling scream. Wisps of black smoke billowed from his body as he lost his strength in midair. Bang! Although he collided with Emlyn, he failed to make him lose his balance. Emlyn tumbled twice, but didn't suffer any actual damage. While tumbling, Emlyn ignored managing his injuries. He swatted his right hand, which had made contact with a few drops of sun water, and quickly flipped Leymano's travels. Puh! Another bolt of silver lightning smote down, causing Argus's tragic cries to come to an end. This vampire who had lost control had appeared to be suffering the radiance of the sun from a close distance, as he fell into a state of intense paralysis. Emlyn seized this opportunity and took out another bottle of sun water. He unscrewed the cap and poured it towards his opponent. This time, Argus didn't even manage to let out a cry. His body began to melt like wax. It was only then that Emlyn heaved a sigh of relief. He then conjured a thick black fog behind him, turning it into illusory bats the size of a palm as they swarmed towards his target. The black bats landed on Argus, enveloping him completely. Following that, they separated and flew back to Emlyn before vanishing. Argus's body had shrunk quite noticeably, and he finally couldn't hold out any longer. In his half-melted state, he slowly collapsed. Only then did Emlyn raise his right hand to check on the remnant pain. He saw that his palm and a few fingers had wounds that were corroding. However, the flesh inside was rapidly squirming as they healed themselves. "It's over, I actually finished him." Emlyn retracted his gaze and looked at Argus's corpse in slight disbelief. Although this hunt had quite a few ups and downs, he hadn't encountered any real danger the entire time. This made him realize that the existence of the Tarot Club made him far stronger than he imagined. If Argus had checked Kevin's corpse first and not noticed the newspapers and wooden chest, he definitely would have figured out that I possess beyonder powers like lightning strike. He wouldn't have used wings of darkness while dodging and end up being hit by the lightning. But this way, he wouldn't have discovered any abnormalities and wouldn't have made any evasive maneuvers ahead of time. My lightning strike would have struck him directly, and things would have been easier. Viewing it from this angle, no matter what happened, I would be able to kill him as long as I didn't make a mistake in my handling of matters. They're really weak, so I'm already this powerful. It's no wonder the ancestor made me join the Tarot Club. This is a gathering that prepares the various races for the impending apocalypse. It's of a much higher level than the other secret organizations. Emlyn tipped his chin up a little as he couldn't help but curl his lips. Following that, he heard footsteps outside, but no one dared to approach. Argus's scream must have alarmed the surrounding residents, but they wouldn't dare enter because they're afraid of trouble. However, someone will definitely report it to the police. I need to clear the scene as quickly as possible and leave. Emlyn retracted his gaze from the door and walked to Kevin's corpse. From the pooling blood, he picked up an item the size of a fist. It was completely red in color and resembled a heart. It was expanding and contracting slightly, and its surface was translucent. He could vaguely see a liquid flowing inside, and it was none other than the beyonder characteristic of a Sequence 7 vampire of the apothecary pathway. This is my trophy. Emlyn momentarily felt unaccustomed to it. After calming himself, he wrapped the beyonder characteristic and Kevin's head with the old newspapers and stuffed it into the wooden chest. After placing the wooden chest to the side, he yanked Argus's head, whose form looked nothing like before. He then took out another bottle of medicine and scattered in every corner of the room. During this process, Emlyn wasn't flustered at all. It was as though he wasn't worried that the official beyonders in East Borough would rush over. A few minutes later, he picked up Argus's mutated Beyonder characteristic, glancing at its surface, which was nearly black in color, and the indistinct human-faced patterns. Behind him, a black gas was emanated. The black gas transformed into countless tiny bats again as they flew within the room. They combined with the potion liquid that had been sprayed earlier, forming a silent black flame that spread outwards. The black flames burned away the blood and corpse, as well as the traces of the lightning strikes. All that was left was a layer of sticky liquid that resembled asphalt covering the different objects in the room. Then, these liquid bodies turned into heavy black bats as they spiraled around Emlin's body. Emlin didn't have extravagant hopes that his actions could completely interfere in subsequent investigations. He only had one goal: to make the situation look okay. This made the police or official Beyonders who took on the case write off the matter as something of little value. After a simple investigation, they would file it away and not pay any further attention to it. After doing all of this, Emlin, with his cap and blackened face, surveyed the room. Following that, he bowed slightly at the crimson moon. Meanwhile, he flipped the pages of Leymano's travels and had it stop at teleportation. Emlin's figure, along with the heavy bats, immediately turned transparent and formless as he vanished from the spot. After nearly 15 minutes, a few policemen from East Borough rushed in. They crashed through the door but didn't discover any residents or corpses. They yawned languidly and forced the onlooking residents to admit that they had been hallucinating, thus ending the investigation. This was the efficiency and style of the East Borough Police. After leaving East Borough, Emlin first headed home and hid Leymano's travels. Then, with his spoils, he headed straight for Odora's house in Westborough. He wanted to declare his victory and claim his reward.